So this right here is a Google Maps screenshot of everywhere that I wanted to visit while I was in the Dolomites. This is after months of research, okay? You should notice two things. One, the westernmost pin on this map to the easternmost pin is like 2.5 hours. So that's like saying, hey, while I'm in Manhattan, I want to visit Philadelphia. You can do it, but like you gotta plan accordingly. The other thing you should notice is the Dolomites can easily be divided into two distinct halves based on popular tourist attractions. In the east, this is where you're gonna find the world-famous Trecimi National Park. You're gonna find Refugio Nuvolau. You're going to find the World War I tunnels that you can hike through. You're gonna find this Insta-famous viewpoint. You're gonna find the site of the upcoming Winter Olympics, and so much more. If you want to know more about the hikes in those places, I do have a video on the best hikes in the Dolomites. But right now, let's talk about where to stay. In this half of the Dolomites, the biggest town is going to be Cortina. This is probably where you're gonna want to find an Airbnb or a hotel. I didn't, and I'm glad I didn't. I'll tell you why in a second. First off though, if you do book an Airbnb in Cortina, you're about 35 minutes from everything you're gonna wanna do in this half of the Dolomites. So like, you're gonna save yourself some time and some gas. By the way, if you're coming from North America, gas is so expensive in Europe, heads up, is like €2 per liter, which I don't know, you can do the math on what that is per gallon. It's a lot. Anyway, Cortina is the site of the upcoming Winter Olympics. So you can, if you're going in the winter, you can ski the same slopes as the Olympians will be skiing, so that's kind of cool. Also, Cortina is gonna have like a main shopping district that is kind of touristy and the prices are kind of high, but it's still nice to go walk around and look at stuff. Here's two important pieces of advice to keep in mind when booking your Airbnb, and then I'll show you where I stayed, okay? If you're looking for a place with air conditioning, you will notice, like no one in Italy has air conditioning. Like if you go on Airbnb and sort by air conditioning, all the dots disappear, all the pins on the map. I don't know what it is with Europe, and especially Italians, they don't like the air conditioning, okay? Now, I know it's northern Italy, but in the heat of the summer, it still gets pretty hot. And then a lot of times it can be stuffy in your room because the air kind of gets trapped there. I asked every Airbnb host for a fan, and every single one of them responded with, "What's fan?" So I sent them a picture and they said, "No, we don't have that, we're not providing it." So, I mean, you're not getting a cool breeze, which means you're probably gonna wanna open the window. And this is point number 2 to keep in mind, okay? The streets in Europe are very narrow, which means when a motor car goes down the street, the sound's gonna reverberate off the buildings and it's gonna sound like you are inside the engine. So it will be completely silent in the middle of the night, and then a car comes by and bam, loud, and you're awake. If that's something that you think would bother you, here's what you need to do. Get an Airbnb a couple streets behind the main street, okay? I know it's nice to be on a main route, but what you do is you scroll into the map, find the main street, and then go, okay, so I wanna be 3 or 4 streets back here. This is gonna be a quieter spot for you. 1, traffic's not gonna go down that street very often, and then 2, there's other buildings blocking the noise. So you can leave your window wide open in the middle of the night, let the breeze come in, you cool off, you're not getting woken up. So I'm not that smart. I accidentally did this at my first Airbnb, okay? So Valle di Cadore, this is where I stayed. So this is Cortina, this is where I was. This is the opposite of touristy, and I loved it for this reason. I paid the price in terms of gas and travel time to get to my destinations, but I mean, I felt like I was the only tourist in this town. I'm driving around these tiny little streets with these old buildings that I swear, I think they were built like the 1300s, a lot of these homes that people are living in. In fact, across from my Airbnb, there was an abandoned one and it was kind of like crumbling a little bit. And you could see it was built out of sticks and plaster, which is wild to me. So it's crazy to think that some of these buildings were built before Christopher Columbus was born. But anyway, it was nice because this is the main street and this is where I was. So again, I'm up a hill and back. There's buildings blocking the noise. It was quiet, it was peaceful. I could open the window. The only people going by on that street were like these nuns that were like going to a church down the road. They would just walk by. That's it. It was a wonderful place to stay with lots of local restaurants, with Italians that don't speak any English, and I had to kind of figure that out. That was part of the adventure. So if you want a less touristy, more authentic experience, I would just go off the main road and look at all the little towns around there and find an Airbnb in one of those. By the way, if you do stay in Valle di Cadore, there is this pizza place right here that makes really authentic Italian pizza. It's owned by this, there's this guy, I swear he looks like he's 100, who owns the restaurant, and then his son is in like his 50s. He's the guy taking your order. He speaks English. Just ask him for his favorite pizza. That's what I ordered. It was so good. What a fantastic place to stop and get some pizza. We'll look at the western half of the Dolomites in a second. First, one more tip, okay? If you do any research at all, you will find that there is refugios all throughout the Alps. These are little huts that you can stay. It's essentially a hostel that you can stay at, and they're like in the mountains. Some of them are like dangling on the edge of the cliff. They're beautiful. This is an option for you to stay at, and it's one you should seriously consider. Now, this is different than an Airbnb, obviously. It's more like a hostel, like I said. Like, you're gonna share a room with other people, probably. Water costs money, showers cost money because there's limited water. Some of them do provide some food if you pay the half board. And the food's actually pretty good at some of these things. Honestly, I think it's a great option. Also, you cut down on travel time and gas because you start your next day already in the Alps, okay? So let's look at this one. This is one of my favorites that I hiked by. I didn't stay here. On Google Maps, it's German name, Dreisinenhütte, I think is how you'd say it. It's located right here behind Trecimi, okay? So like you can't get a better spot than this or a better view. You're in Trecimi National Park. Depending if you want to stay in a dorm or in a private room, or if you want to have a shower, it's going to cost you anywhere from 25 euros to 100 euros per night. And then there's this one here. This is Refugio Nuvolau. So this is dangling on the edge of a cliff. I hiked up to this, and it was a beautiful, beautiful refugio with great views. I sat out on the patio, had some pasta and some wine, walked around, looked at the views. You can actually stay here overnight, which is fantastic. If you actually just go to Google Maps and type in refugio, there'll be dots popping up everywhere. There's tons that you can stay in. You just literally have your pick. A lot of people do hut-to-hut hiking, where they'll hike to one hut, stay overnight, eat, hike to the next. That's a great option to do, and it's something I might do next time. All right, now let's talk about the western half of the Dolomites. Okay, so it's in this area that you're gonna see like the world famous cicada. An easy beginner-friendly Via Ferrata. Valle di Funes, which I'm surely saying wrong. It's an Instagram famous village with beautiful meadows at the foot of the Dolomites. There's like a church there and everything. There's also the Rosengarten Group, which is like a national park that honestly does not get the attention it deserves in YouTube videos. People don't mention this that much, but there is a million unbelievable hikes and refugios in this place. And honestly, they just don't get that much Instagram attention, but you should definitely check it out. Sadly, I ran out of time. And this is what I said about planning properly, right? I had a week, I spent it all in the east, I did not go to the west. So I'm not gonna talk too much about this because I wasn't there, I didn't experience it, but you need to check out the west as well. Based on my map of all the things I wanted to do, if I could do this again, I would pick a small town near this junction right here. So S243 and S242. It's right there where you're in the best possible position to get to all of the places quickly. One of the refugios in this area that I was really excited to stay, that it didn't work out, it's Refugio Re Albert, okay? It's this one right here. It's right at the base of these towers, and there's plenty of Via Ferratas all around you and great hikes, and it just looks beautiful, especially at night. Like, you're gonna stay there and there's no light pollution. You're gonna walk out after dark, but before bedtime, hanging out with a bunch of other hikers. You're gonna be looking at the stars. It's gonna be such a great time to stay in a place like this. And then the next morning, you're at the mountain already, so you can just start your hike, start your Via Ferrata. This is a fantastic spot to stay in. Again, because I didn't actually stay in this part of the Dolomites, I'm not gonna talk too much about it. I don't know as much about it, but I will link in the description a couple blogs that do have experience being in the Dolomites that are gonna help you plan your vacation. Thanks for watching. I do have another video, the best hikes in the Dolomites. You can watch that too, and happy planning.